Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. And now, Financial Renaissance with the M's.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us, financial knowledge seekers. You're listening to Financial Renaissance with the M's, and I am your co-host, Emma Folks. My co-host, Emmanuel Glaze is out in the Carolinas on assignment. But today we are going to cover tons of topics. We got a hot show today. We're going to be talking about healthcare. Healthcare in the United States, as you know, is a pretty touchy topic, but what we're going to talk about today is definitely nonpartisan. No matter which side of the aisle you pledge your allegiance to, the topic today on healthcare, we're going to be talking about hospital bills. We're going to be talking about premiums for healthcare, and then we're going to talk about something that the Trump administration introduced to us to take over the ACA or to just give more options for small business owners. And then we're going to look at caregiving, because caregiving is a very big deal for people, in their mid-50s, and actually even for millennials. We're going to have to provide care or figure out how to deal with our parents as they age, if they haven't saved enough or if they've gotten laid off, a number of things. And then we're going to touch a little bit on a story of grandparents that are getting arrested because they don't have anything for retirement. So it's going to be a knockout show. Also looking at the Varsity Blues scandal. I mean, oh my gosh, what a hot topic. There was so much to just kind of unpeel around that. But I would like to, first and foremost, give a shout out to my niece, Savvy Shaw, and the William Sidney Mount Elementary School. Last night they had their sixth grade dance takes Manhattan, or sixth grade takes Manhattan dance, and I saw the pictures from it, and I got to tell you, it warmed my heart to see little girls dressed very appropriately. So, good job, parents. But another thing that kind of happened this week, I'm planning a trip. Life Lux Jazz, they were a guest on the show maybe 6 weeks ago. And they're doing this big jazz festival in Cabo San Lucas. And I'm going to be there speaking. And we were just kind of planning the topics. And man, this is really, really exciting. I don't know if you're into jazz, but if you are, you can go ahead and look up. You can go to www.lifelux, L-U-X-E, jazz, and you can look up the event. It's going to be in Cabo San Lucas. They've got a brilliant lineup. And that'll be in November, this coming November in Cabo San Lucas. So I'm pretty excited about that. But let's jump into a little bit about this healthcare thing. We have to, it's no secret that healthcare premiums are pretty expensive. One of the things that got to me as I was doing my research for this, especially when it came to the grandparents, there are actual grandparents, because they can't afford the costs of healthcare, they're actually out there committing petty crimes to purposely get locked up. A lot of these grandparents feel that, in prison they have food, they have free healthcare, and they also have a sense of community. So they're committing petty crimes. They're kind of robbing people of their, iPhone headphones, and hey, yes, sonny, I don't want to hurt you, but give me what you have in your pocket. And so yeah, they're committing these petty crimes, and I want to dig a little bit into that because, I would hate to get that phone call that my mom's has been arrested for stealing like a pack of hot dogs or something like that. On the way, we're going to jump into this healthcare topic. See you after the break.
Don't just sing the song, do it. And we're here to help with Smart Talk. From programs like this, your nation's urban station, online, on ssnatl.com.
1 in 7 Americans will struggle with addiction during their lifetime. Want to know how you can help? Go to heretolisten.com for tips and tools to help turn addiction around. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council.
Already coaching? Everybody's a coach these days. I get it. Life coach, relationship coach, financial coach. But you want to be a coach with integrity. So get certified and do it the right way. Or add coaching to the work that you already do. Join a cohort or take classes at your own pace. We have knowledgeable instructors. We have a life-changing curriculum. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com to learn more.
I'm more resourceful than I thought.
My suit can still make an impression.
My video games are still game changers.
And my lamp can bring others a bright future.
Because when I donate my stuff to Goodwill,
It helps fund job placement and training for people right in my community.
Now my stuff gets a second chance.
and will give someone in my community
A second chance too.
Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. That's goodwill.org. This message brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
It is Sean Prime from Inside the Loop with myself and Brenna B, and I've been talking about Gene's Body Tech for a minute simply because it's a premier gym and a pristine spot without a premium price. All the weight you need, all the machines you want, free parking, all in Buckhead. Come on, it's crazy. 700 Miami Circle is where you want to work out today. And for those who are feeling a little bit down because you may not have followed through on the healthy New Year resolution thing, hey, it's still the new year. You can start today. Look at yourself a year from now and hello, is that you? Because you're looking good, like snack-like. Yes, you are. 700 Miami Circle, or go to facebook.com/Gene's Body Tech, also known as JBT Fitness. Either way, $49 is nothing to pay to feel your best every day.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, fish that.
Oh, come on. This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
If you have the questions, we have the answers.
All
Go to ssnatl.com and click on the Contact tab. As much as you like. We're the nation's urban station. Online. ssnatl.com.
And you are back with Financial Renaissance with the M's. I'm your host, Emma Folks. And this morning we are talking about healthcare, we are talking about caregiving, and we are talking about the Varsity Blues scandal. Oh my gosh, that's such an exciting topic for me. If you want to join in the conversation today, please text us at 678-613-5857. You can also join us on Facebook Live. We are streaming at Sensation Station Network or Facebook.com/NotDumbedDown. Okay, so let's jump into this healthcare. Healthcare is one of those issues where we know that in our country it's a pretty, it just gets this reaction from a lot of people, and our healthcare system, it's no secret, it needs to be tweaked a little bit. But today what I'm going to do is give you some freaky examples of the healthcare bills. I'm going to tell you what President Trump is trying to do to make healthcare better. You can love him like MAGA. You can hate him because of Charlottesville. Either way, I'm always looking for angles, like financial angles in any story. Anytime people are upset about something, what I try to peel back the layers, figure out what's going on. And, Donald Trump, when he was running, he said, hey, Obamacare is garbage. And unlike a lot of other people in Washington who said, Obamacare is garbage and et cetera, they didn't come up with, they had like 7 years or 6 years, whatever the number of years was, to come up with a solution. And no one came up with a solution. They just sat there and they bashed this healthcare system. So Donald Trump came to us with a solution, and like everything new that's introduced in this country, it's going to have its usual cast of dissenters and its usual cast of supporters. And this story that I'm going to start with, this story it has all the fixins for criticism. So if you're ready to criticize first thing in the morning, this is probably one of the funniest stories. Well, it's not funny. Sorry, not sorry. But so this story is about an anti-vaxxer family. Let's start with the facts, first of all. This family lived in Oregon, and the state of Oregon has not had one single case of childhood tetanus in the past 30 years. And so for 30 years, not one single kid has stepped on a nail or sliced their hand open on a rusted can and gotten lockjaw, right? I think about myself as a kid, growing up in the Bronx and on Cedric Avenue, living in Queens on 224th Street, right off Linden. And my goodness, even stuff I did when I lived in Chino, California, God protects fools and children, and I thank my maker for making sure that I never got tetanus or had to, confess to my mother some of the stuff that I did. But as kids, we hurt ourselves because we're always doing stuff. Kids hurt themselves because their parents say, hey, don't do this. And, well, why not? Let's try it out. That's what makes us human. And, health insurance is also, a good thing to have. And in the great state of New York, I believe you got vaccinated for free by the local health department. And I believe the health department still does this. And as a parent, I truly understand the people who are anti-vaxxers. There's a lot of confusion about autism. There's a lot of confusion about Asperger's. There was a rumor, I haven't seen any scientific facts to back this up yet, but rumors that vaccinations are a cause of autism and possibly Asperger's. So I can understand, because there's no known link. Nobody's giving us a reason as to, what's happening with our kids. But our country is experiencing diseases right now that we thought had been eradicated. I'm talking about measles, mumps, you name it. These are some 20th century diseases that are back because, parents just don't understand. And if you choose, if you choose not to vaccinate your kids, that's fine. Just homeschool them. Keep your whole family on your compound or on your property, have your groceries delivered, have Amazon deliver stuff, but try not to, expose yourself to the general public, because there are people with weak immune systems. Well, in Oregon, this little unvaccinated boy busted his head pretty bad. His parents live on a farm, and what his parents decided to do was he split his head open. They decided to stitch his head up themselves. Back in the day when I lived in the Bronx, I remember some parents that didn't have health insurance that would actually stitch their kids' cuts up. Not advisable. But with this little boy, and this isn't funny, but it really does sound like a case for Child Protective Services. 6 days after they stitched up little Timmy's head, he had to be medevaced to the hospital. The kid had all the signs and symptoms of tetanus: clenched jaw, arched back, muscle spasms. I mean, it was horrible. And he had to spend 2 months in the hospital in the ICU, or intensive care unit. And all told, he was there for about 45 days in ICU. And they were giving him some neuromuscular drugs and just all these things to try to stop him from convulsing and spazzing. And they had to give him vaccinations, for diphtheria, tetanus, and a couple of other things that I can't pronounce. And when it was all said and done, the bill that the parents got was for $800,000 American dollars. Okay, $800,000, because the kid had to be airlifted, and he spent, almost 2 months in the ICU. When we come back, we're going to talk about another case of do-gooding, when do-gooding goes incredibly wrong.
Already coaching? Everybody's a coach these days. I get it. Life coach, relationship coach, financial coach. But you want to be a coach with integrity. So get certified and do it the right way. Or add coaching to the work that you already do. Join a cohort or take classes at your own pace. We have knowledgeable instructors. We have a life-changing curriculum. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com to learn more.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and catch the bus. Text and miss your stop. Wait. Text and be late to work.
Sorry, I'm late.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Me?
Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey. Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
We're more connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, Beyond Differences and I Keep Safe are looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.com.
It is Sean Prime from Inside the Loop with myself and Brenna B, and I've been talking about Gene's Body Tech for a minute simply because it's a premier gym in a pristine spot without a premium price. All the weight you need, all the machines you want, free parking, all in Buckhead. Come on, it's crazy. 700 Miami Circle is where you want to work out today. And for those who are feeling a little bit down because you may not have followed through on the healthy New Year resolution thing, hey, it's still the new year. You can start today. Look at yourself a year from now and hello, is that you? Because you're looking good, like snack-like. Yes, you are. 700 Miami Circle, or go to facebook.com/Gene's Body Tech, also known as JBT Fitness. Either way, $49 is nothing to pay to feel your best every day.
And we're back. Before the break, we had a conversation about an $800,000 hospital bill for a little boy. And the fact of the matter, again, not discounting what parents feel about vaccinations, but that child could have gotten 5 rounds of vaccines for $30 a piece, and that could have prevented the infection. So we're looking at under $200 could have prevented $800,000 worth of hospital bills. So again, parents, I get it, I understand it, but do your due diligence and make sure that if you're not vaccinating your child, you know, if they get cut and need stitches, that you take them to a doctor. Let the doctor clean it out and do the right things. So let's go into another story of a woman. Her name is Jeanette Parker, and she is a marine biologist or a wildlife biologist, and she works right outside of she works at the Florida Everglades National Park. And last year she was, about to go home, and she saw this little, kitten right outside of the Florida's Everglades National Park. So I can only assume that she didn't want this little cat to become alligator bait. So I could tell you, I wouldn't have gotten out of my car to go try to save this this kitten because, alligators can run faster than we can. So I would have been like, hey, I hope for the best for you. But that's not what she did. She tried to save the cat. And what she did was, even though the cat looked really, really, really sick, she had a little bit of tuna fish in the car, and she was going to entice the kitten, try to get it in the car with her by offering it some tuna fish. Well, this kitten was kind of a chicken hawk, and I don't know if you remember the old Bugs Bunny, that little chicken hawk with a foghorn leghorn. And the chicken hawk looked at the woman, looked at the tuna, and was like, I don't want the tuna, I want you. You're bigger, I'm going to eat you. And so this little cat bit her. And the woman had, she ran straight to the health department, and of course it was closed because, this is like after work. So she did what any intelligent person would have done. She went straight to the hospital. And, hey, nothing's wrong with this story so far. She made a choice that I wouldn't, I wouldn't try to pick up a stray anything, but I respect the heck out of animal rights people. I mean, they do stuff that I'm not built to do, so I don't judge them. They're not hurting me. Live your best you. But she goes to the hospital and she gets 2 shots. And as I said, she's actually a wildlife biologist, and she gets 2 injections and antibiotics. No big deal. Every part of this story is normal. But then what happens is she gets her final bill from the emergency room. And I'll tell you right now, if you're standing up, sit down. That final bill that she got from the emergency room was $48,512 American dollars. Whoa, whoa, and whoa. All she did was try to rescue a cat, and the cat bit her. So the majority of the cost for that the shots that she got was for a preventative medicine known as rabies immune globin. And it's supposed to be, one of these antibodies that kind of jumpstarts your immune system to protect you from any type of virus until the vaccine that you have kicks in. And they gave Miss Parker 12 milliliters of this rabies immune globin. And being that she works, she's a wildlife biologist, she kind of knows what certain things should cost. So she knew that the medication was expensive, but she also knew that it shouldn't be that expensive. And so she sat on it for a while, and then she says, finally, I went to the hospital to confirm the cost. And they told her that she was absolutely right, that, hey, your bill is, $48,512. And so the medication, based on the math, the medication costs about $361 per milliliter. And so she received 12 milliliters. So the cost of that medication should have been about $4,000. But by the time she was treated, she had to pay, I think it came out to, for that particular medicine, was $46,422. And it reflected list prices that had been changed by the hospital, a little bit earlier. And so a spokesman for the hospital where she was treated, they estimated that the hospital was billing $7,700 per 2 milliliter dose. So it really should have been about $600, a little under $700, but they were charging her $7,000, all right, per 2 milliliters. So she complained, and about a month later, they lowered the price from $7,000 per 2 milliliters to $1,600 per milliliter. And the statements from the hospital were that, any patient that was treated prior to the change, they would change their bill, and it would, reflect the previous amount. But what was weird is the hospital didn't have a real reason for why they charge what they charge for this woman. And so the moral of the story is, if you get a bill from the hospital and it doesn't smell right, do your due diligence. Go to the hospital. Of course, you'll start out by calling. I would also say tweet about it. Anything that you can do to draw attention to the overcharge. And also, a bite from a cat, a bite from anything should not cost $40-something thousand. And as I was, reading these stories, I was looking at, medical debt and what premiums cost for the average American. And right now, medical debt is, believe it or not, a uniquely American phenomenon. A lot of other developed countries don't go into debt or file for bankruptcy because they or their family members got sick or hurt. It's here in this country where, I think in the American Journal of Public Health, they said that nearly 60% of people who filed for bankruptcy said that there was that a medical expense was very much or somewhat responsible for them filing for bankruptcy. So right now in our country, 1 in 5 Americans have a medical claim on their credit report. And the same proportion, 1 in 5 people also have a medical bill that's overdue. So looking at the premiums, and these are numbers from 2016. Couldn't get access to the numbers for 2018 yet, but premiums for an individual regular person, a premium for monthly was $321, while premiums for a family averaged about $833 per month. That's a mortgage payment. That's a nice car payment. That's, money that you can put into savings. You could pay down debt with $800 a month. Oh my gosh, the dinners I could go out and have, right? But a whole lot can be done with $800, but let's just say, in my opinion, I feel like a health insurance shouldn't cost more than about $100 per month per person. But, looking at those numbers, either way, there'd be about $500 or $400 left over. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in Japan with their elder population.
Coming to Tampa Bay, I said we want to win the Super Bowl, and I believe we will.
From IamSecond.com.
We came close, but never really did win that championship.
former NFL head coach Tony Dungy.
At the end of my 6th year, I was fired, and it was one of the biggest disappointments of my life. Next year, I'm in Indianapolis, get to the playoffs, but get knocked out again. And for the next couple of years, it's the same thing. Everyone is saying Colts are never going to win one. And I did wonder, why didn't it pan out the way I thought it would? But I determined that I had to have Christ first, and that everything else came below that, including my own desires. The next year, that ended up being our year to go to the Super Bowl and win it, and it was a wonderful feeling. Every decision I make, I'm going to make it through the lens of Jesus Christ, and He guide us to that ultimate victory. I'm Tony Dungy, and I am second.
I'm more resourceful than I thought.
My suit can still make an impression.
My video games are still game changers.
And my lamp can bring others a bright future.
Because when I donate my stuff to Goodwill,
It helps fund job placement and training for people right in my community.
Now my stuff gets a second chance.
and will give someone in my community
A second chance too.
Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. That's goodwill.org. This message brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
To buy your home, you became a house-hunting ace, learned about loans, scoured neighborhoods, and asked the right questions. Now you're queen of your castle. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. With 401k tips and smart saving strategies, you will feel empowered to own your retirement like you own your home. Go to aceyourretirement.org, because when it comes to clearing financial hurdles, you're an ace. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Going to get this all straightened out. Keep a little talking to, man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
It is Sean Prime from Inside the Loop with myself and Brenna B, and I've been talking about Gene's Body Tech for a minute simply because it's a premier gym in a pristine spot without a premium price. All the weight you need, all the machines you want, free parking, all in Buckhead. Come on, it's crazy. 700 Miami Circle is where you want to work out today. And for those who are feeling a little bit down because you may not have followed through on the Healthy New Year resolution thing, hey, it's still the new year. You can start today. Look at yourself a year from now and hello, is that you? Because you're looking good, like snack-like. Yes, you are. 700 Miami Circle, or go to facebook.com/Gene's Body Tech, also known as JBT Fitness. Either way, $49 is nothing to pay to feel your best every day.
Text us with your shout-outs and requests to 678-613-5857. Radio, knock them down.
Good morning. Good morning, good morning. We are Financial Renaissance with the M's, and we are talking today about healthcare. We're talking about healthcare premiums. We're talking about Japan's elderly. Japan's elderly are going to prison at an alarming rate. And then we're also going to touch a little bit on on caregiving. Before the break, we were talking about premiums. The average cost for an individual plan, if you're single, you're paying a little bit less than $5,000 a year for healthcare. And if you have a family, your average premium or even deductible is about just shy of $10,000. But President Trump came out with an affordable option to healthcare. It's called Association Health Plans. And he announced this last year and predicted that it's going to his thought was that it was going to result in very low healthcare prices and offer more choices and more freedom, including opportunities to buy health insurance outside of your state. So AHPs for short, Association Health Plans, they were designed to allow self-employed people and small business owners to come together and purchase health coverage as part of an association. Now, I haven't heard a lot of noise about it, but it's something that we need to be thinking about. The Trump administration is encouraging additional healthcare providers as well as insurance companies to enter into the marketplace. There's going to be a lot of competition there. So how this association health plans work, they're run right now by the Department of Labor, and their goal is to make sure that, you know, small business owners, even people who are sole proprietors, can also, so if you're a sole proprietor and let's say you're a CPA, you can partner together with other CPAs that may have a firm, or they may also be solo practitioners, and all of you can come together to get health insurance, not only for yourself, but also for your families. And you can also customize a health plan that makes the most sense for you and your employees. So the AHP, based on a lot of things, it looks like the competition with them is going to be pretty good. So there are also certain religions, like if you type in, you know, whatever your religion is, and then you type in health plan, a lot of religions are also putting together health ministries. They're not the same thing as insurance providers, but it's a step in the right direction. So AHP, some of these are funded. There's self-funded ones that are regulated by the federal government, so the state governments don't have any say in them. Right now, one of the biggest challenges with these is, of course, there are people that are not happy about them. They feel that, you know, rights are being taken away, you know, the same thing that happens anytime something new pops up. But I would tell you, if you are a business owner, self-employed, you're a solo practitioner, go ahead and take a look at this and look and see if there are people in your industry that are banding together so that you can get health insurance for yourself and for your families, and hopefully, you know, you yourself won't have to spend $500 a month or $400 a month for health insurance. That's a lot of money. But as I was doing my, I was doing some work, research for a workshop that I'm going to be doing in a couple months on caregiving and financial planning. And while I was doing my research, I was blown away by the stats, because the numbers continue to go up. Back in the day, you know, generations ago, sometimes there may have been, you know, 2 or 3 generations living under the same household. So taking care of grandma and grandpa wasn't that big of a deal because they were right there in the house. But, you know, as you know, time goes on, you know, people leave the farm and they don't come back, or people leave their towns and they don't come back. And, you know, we're spread out all over the country. And, you know, whether it's going off to college or going off to the military, a lot of young people found other cities that were more desirable, or they, you know, went out into the world and got married and they went back to their spouse's, you know, place of residence. And, you know, we are also, the other thing that happened is we started moving out before we got married. You know, back in the day, you left home once you got married, depending on your culture. But thanks to the baby boomers, they, you know, were living kind of a communal lifestyle back in the 60s. So, you know, that doesn't happen anymore. Usually, you know, kids, after they graduate from college, you know, they're out of the house. And today, if you have a parent that you may need to care for, your parent can be on the other side of town, or your parent can be in another state. But let me give you first the definition of what a caregiver is. A caregiver, sometimes they call them informal caregivers, is an unpaid individual, you know, typically a spouse, a partner, a family member, a friend, or a neighbor that's involved in assisting you with activities of daily living or medical tasks. Now, that's an informal caregiver. And that's what most of us will end up becoming, because we may have to help provide care for our parents. A formal caregiver are the people that are actually paid to come into the house. You know, they'll help with either adult daycare, they'll come in and, you know, maybe cook, clean, do things like that, provide medical care, stuff like that. And these people are paid. And according to AARP, this number shocked me. According to AARP, there are over 10 million millennial caregivers. So I was in the mindset that the majority of the caregiving is happening to Generation Xers. They're calling us the sandwich generation because we're trying to push our kids into college and we're paying for all of that stuff. And then in a lot of cases, our parents may need our financial support. So because of that, we're sandwiched in between two generations. So they call us the sandwich generation. But like I said, 10 million millennials are actually caregivers. So there are right now about 45 million Americans who have provided unpaid childcare for an adult over 50 or for a child. One of the cool things, or I should say, is that there are more millennials than there are baby boomers. So shout out to all the Gen Xers who had more kids than their parents did, because we're going to need them. So when you are a caregiver, there's a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. One, before you even become a caregiver, it's important to have that conversation with your parent. And a lot of us, our parents don't want to talk about money. Our parents don't want to talk about anything. But our livelihood depends on it. Our retirement depends on it. What we plan on passing down to our kids and our grandkids depends on what's happening with our parents. So it's better to have that conversation now, because there's three things that usually happen with a person when it comes to caregiving. There's a physical toll that it takes on you. There's an emotional toll that takes on you, and also a financial toll that ends up happening. So with the physical toll, have you ever tried to lift someone, from the bed and put them into a wheelchair, or, kind of put them on a toilet? I haven't personally. I've got back problems. I'm a vet. But I've been told that it really, really, takes a strain on your back. If you don't lift them upright, you can end up hurting yourself. And the emotional toll that can happen is you really have to have this conversation with your parents or your grandparents or your elder loved ones about long-term care. And there are a lot of options out there. There's more than just a traditional long-term care that acts like, auto insurance. Like, if you don't wrap your car around a pole, you don't get anything from the insurance company. There's a lot of traditional long-term care policies that are kind of use it or lose it. If you don't use the money that you put into it, you lose it all. But there's some hybrid ones available where, the monies that you put into it, you can get back if needed, or if the person doesn't use it. So one of the things that we'll end up doing at some point in time is having a show on long-term care, or if you have questions, let me know. You can even call our office and I can, have that conversation with you. But for the emotional piece of caregiving, the guilt that people feel when they have to take care of their parents, it's this emotional thing, because a lot of times you weren't prepared for it. What ends up happening is you get a phone call that something happened to your parent, and then you start finding out all these other things that you didn't know about, and then, bam, you have to start helping your parent. Your parent may live in another state, right? And if your parent lives in another state, how do you still work? How do you still maintain what's going on in your household while trying to take care of your parents? So it's important, again, that we have those conversations with our parents, because hundreds and thousands of dollars are spent. You can talk to your parents, spend a couple of $100s now between you and your siblings or your cousins or whoever, or spend hundreds of thousands of dollars down the road in trying to take care of them. The financial toll right now for unpaid care or unpaid, uncompensated care that people like us are providing for our family members, that number is over $450 billion, okay? $450 billion is just poof, gone into the air. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the average out-of-pocket costs that we pay to take care of our parents.
Energizing a nation, one listener at a time. It's SSNATL.com. Radio that's not dumbed down.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B. Console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C. Take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Keep a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D. Help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
So, I'm a dog, and I just got adopted by this new human guy, and I'm starting to wonder how he got along without me. I mean, okay, something as simple as walking around the block. He's got this leash thing, and he puts me on one end and him on the other, and I'm just taking him around. I think he's afraid of getting lost. Without that leash and me guiding him along, I don't think he'd find his way back home. But it's kind of cute.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org. Green light. Hey girl. School zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on 2 things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
To buy your home, you became a house hunting ace. Learned about loans, scoured neighborhoods, and asked the right questions. Now you're queen of your castle. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. With 401k tips and smart saving strategies, you will feel empowered to own your retirement like you own your home. Go to aceyourretirement.org. Because when it comes to clearing financial hurdles, you're an ace. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
This is big business. This is the American way.
Station Network.
See ya.
And you are back with Financial Renaissance with the M's. I am your host, Emma Folks. And if you want to join in on the conversation, you can text us at 678-613-5857. You can also find us on Facebook Live at Sensation Station Network, or we're streaming live on ssnatl.com. All right, before the break, we were talking about the cost of caregiving. And I've got a couple of figures for you. If your parent or the person that you're giving care for is out of the state, you're going to be paying about $15,000 a year annually, your own out-of-pocket costs. If the person lives in the state, same state as you, your out-of-pocket costs are going to be about $10,000. So looking at, all the numbers, I found that families are spending nearly 20% of their income on caregiving. Think about that for a second. If you're trying to save for retirement, if you're trying to put your kids into college and save for their college education, and then wham, something happens to your parent and now you have to step up and help to provide care for them. I mean, that's going to be a huge, huge dent in your pocket, right? So again, looking at if your parents live out of state, we're looking at over $15,000 coming straight out of your bank account to make sure that you can fly back and forth and do the things that you need to do with your parents. That's a lot of money. So the conversations need to happen. There's lots of suggestions for talking to your parents about elder care or how do they want to spend the third of their life. I heard, baby boomers don't like the term baby boomers, so you just want to ask them, we're in the fourth quarter, how do you want this to play out? What do you want this to look like? But ask your parents, engage them in the conversation, do it gently. There's lots of books out there. It's like having that other talk. Our parents had to have that birds and the bees talk with us. So it's time for us to flip it on them and have that other talk about elder care with them. Make sure they have their wills in place. Make sure you know where their will is. Make sure you know the bills that they write. It's time to have, these open and honest conversations with our parents about money. On the other side, what we're going to do, stay tuned, we're going to talk a little bit about the Japanese aging population and why they are going to prison.
already coaching? Everybody's a coach these days. I get it. Life coach, relationship coach, financial coach. But you want to be a coach with integrity. So get certified and do it the right way. Or add coaching to the work that you already do. Join a cohort or take classes at your own pace. We have knowledgeable instructors. We have a life-changing curriculum. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com to learn more.
Some knowledge belongs to us and us alone. The way our girlfriends walk, talk, touch their hair. Details that only a sister can know about her girls. But what about our other girls? The ones we carry with us every day. Our bond with our sister girls gives life. But knowing your breasts can save it. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Coleman and the Ad Council.
You use Tearless Baby Shampoo because it's gentle on your baby's eyes. You make sure his toys don't have any sharp edges. You always test the bath water to make sure it's not too hot. You taught her what to do when the smoke alarm goes off. You make sure she wears a helmet when she rides her bicycle. You put on his sunscreen, even when he's embarrassed his friends will see. You do so much to keep your child safe. But are you using the right car seat for your child? Is your child facing the right way in the car seat? Is the seat too big or too small? How do you know when it's time to move your child into the next type of seat? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Protect your child's future at every stage of life. For information on the right seat for your child, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. That's safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school? Having trouble finding Connor's middle school? Would you like directions? No, why is Connor having trouble focusing in school? Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul. No, I'm tired of fighting with him over homework. Home, walk, restaurant. Need a review? No, I need help. He's very smart, but his mind wanders. He's disorganized. I think I understand. Oh, good. Finding best potatoes for French fries. No! Russet, fingerling, Yukon Gold. Why don't you understand me? Sorry, I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Brought to you by understood.org and the Ad Council.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go fish, Dad.
Oh, come on. This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
And we're back with Financial Renaissance with the M's. And man, this next story blew me away as I was doing research on caregiving and healthcare premiums and things like that. I ran across a story of a grandfather that got put into jail because he stole food. He was hungry. And this was a gentleman in Japan. And Japan is one of those countries where they have the oldest population in the world right now. People over the age of 65 are committing more crimes than almost everyone else. So America isn't the only country that, has a baby boomer crisis, obviously, but, Japan is kind of going through it right now. They do have an extremely high rate of recidivism, but a lot of that has to do with what happens to people once they come home from jail. A lot of Japanese, when they come home from jail, their families don't want anything to do with them, but that's not the only reason. As I mentioned early on at the beginning of the show, that there are people who are shoplifting on purpose. Japan has more than 25% of their population that are over age of 65. And right now the government is struggling to figure out how to deal with what's going on with their elderly. Between the years of 1985 and 2015, there was a 600% jump in elderly people who ended up living alone. And in this country, we call them shut-ins. They don't have a lot of interaction with the outside world. They don't have a lot of people checking on them. And so what these people are doing, and a lot of them are not even in communications with their family. Their family members aren't checking on them. So what they've been doing is they've been committing petty crimes. And they're committing a lot of these petty crimes because they're lonely. You know, they want basic human needs. They want stability. They want a sense of community, and they're getting that in jail. In jail, they have people around them, so as they age, there are people still caring for them. They're also looking at, you know, the food. They don't have to worry about paying for food, and they also don't have to pay for health care. So in Japan right now, part of some of the elderly population's retirement plan is the prison system. And the Japanese government is freaking out right now because it is costing about $20,000 a year to keep a prisoner in jail. So they're looking for some alternatives to see what they can do to decrease the numbers of people over 65 that are committing crimes. And again, they're not, you know, out there robbing banks. They're not out there doing, you know, anything heinous. They're not killing people. They're not, you know, kidnapping kids. They're not doing anything like that. They're doing like petty crimes like shoplifting. Shoplifting and purposefully so that they can get caught just so that they can go to jail. So this story is an interesting story that we need to keep our eyes on because if it's happening in another country, it can also happen here. You know, Japan is a developed country. They do have problems with retirement. They do have problems with saving. They have the same problems we have. And if we're seeing it happen over there, we have to think that it can also happen here. You know, for those of us that have parents and kids, usually when we get a phone call at work, it's about our kid, you know, your son got in a fight again today and he's suspended, come get him. Well, how would you feel if the local grocery store called you and said, hey, we got your mom or dad here. They were, you know, trying to shoplift some hot cocoa and, you know, we're placing them under arrest. You can come downtown and pick them up. Oh my gosh, like I would be so angry. But you know, again, if something like this is happening, you know, usually in some cases people act out when they're not getting not getting enough attention. So not saying that this is an attention grabbing thing, this is a survival thing, but I want all of us to pay attention to what's happening with the elderly people in Japan. Okay? We don't want any phone calls, Mom and Dad. I don't want any phone calls because you guys decided to steal, you know, hot dogs or salsa or guacamole from the local HEB in Texas. Okay, I'd be very, very upset. So coming up, we're going to talk a little bit about the Varsity Blues scandal. I was trying my best to just stay away from the conversation. And I started, of course, doing research. You know, my news feed, there's always, you know, Google alert stuff popping up on my computer telling me what's, you know, going on in the financial world. And one of the actors in all of this college scandal stuff was a hedge fund big shot named Bill McGlaskin. And he is, you know, pretty popular guy, pretty famous guy. He was involved because he decided that he was going to use money to help correct his son's SAT scores. And then he was also going to give his son a athletic portfolio, so it looked like his son was an athlete, an elite athlete at that. And you know, I have to say that I'm so proud of the company that this Bill McGlasson worked for. He worked for TPG hedge fund company. And what they did last week when the story broke, this Bill guy, you know, decided he was going to take some time off. And, you know, when I went back to look at the story this morning, what I saw was that TPG fired him. And there's some discrepancy, you know, there's all these news stories as to whether or not the guy resigned or whether or not, you know, he was fired. And, you know, big shout outs to his company because usually financial companies do not put the smack down on people. What they do is they like to waltz around and pretend that, you know, oh, he's decided to, you know, in this time, you know, take time with his family and, you know, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's not what TPG did. What they said was, I said what I said. He's fired. After reviewing the allegations of personal misconduct in the criminal complaint, we believe the behavior described to be inexcusable, unethical. A financial company said somebody was anti-ethical. Oh, little hearts. So unethical or anti-ethical to the values of our entire organization. You know, who are these TPG cats? You know, I'm so like just in love with them right now. You know, thank you for letting us see that morals and ethics and things like that do matter. TPG was one of the companies that helped fund startups like Uber and Airbnb. So, you know, shout out to you guys. And also, unfortunately for Bill's son, his son's going to end up getting kicked out of USC. And when I say USC, I know I'm in the South. USC isn't University of South Carolina. It's University for Spoiled Children. It is the coveted University of Southern California. Everybody knows about the USC Trojans. It is a phenomenal school, phenomenal school. So now Bill's kid is going to have to be kicked out. And as a parent of an athlete, my son was a two-time All-American. He graduated from high school, you know, in the middle of the recession. And so things were very, very different. And we had to look at using his athletic ability. He was a track star. We had to look at using his athletic ability as well as his academic ability to try to get him a scholarship. You know, during the recession, I had only planned on spending about $5,000 for this kid to go to school because of the Hope Scholarship. As long as he had over a 3.0, he would have been good. But the year he graduated, the Hope Scholarship changed and the GPA went up to 3.7. So there was a lot that had to be done in a short amount of time to scramble to try to get this kid in school. And there are lots of parents out there that have kids. And the cool thing about this scandal is so many conversations are sprouting up. For people of color, the conversation of affirmative action that's been thrown in our faces a lot of times because there have been people who have told us we're only doing what we're doing because of affirmative action, not because we've had to study our butts off or, you know, grind it out and, you know, with athletics and, you know, miss out on a lot of stuff. So the conversations are happening, and I'm very, very proud of it. It almost we feel vindicated in a sense. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then there's another piece of this story that really got to me. There was a Yale graduate by the name of Maury Tobin, and he kind of kicked off this whole college admissions scandal, okay? I mean, when I say he kicked it off, I'm talking about dirty boots, muddy boots, Rick James stomping on a white couch, kicking it off. He decided to snitch. He got caught by the federal government. He was doing some type of financial fraud. And again, Yale graduate. So criminals, it doesn't matter what race, doesn't matter your level of education. None of that stuff matters. Where you hail from in the world doesn't matter. There's a certain element of human beings that don't do, if they think they can get away with something, they do. They play by a different set of rules. So like any tough guy, when this guy got caught for frauding people by the feds, he was like, you know what? I don't really want to do time. You know, I think there's people out there doing worse things than just selling people bogus investments. And when we come back, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what Maury told the feds.
Everybody successful lays a blueprint out. We laid the blueprint out. I stayed true to my dreams, and by doing that, eventually it came true.
A lot of times, you know, it's like in life, right? Life brings like drama, and you gotta deal with this person, and then funky relationship here, and all these things. You try and just kind of balance them out as best I can.
Make a choice, right? You just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide. And then from that point, the universe is going to get out your way.
Everybody wants to be a beast until it's time to do what real beasts do.
Unleash your beast. Write your history.
Honey, what you cook for dinner tonight?
You want the good news or the bad news first?
The bad news first.
I cooked nothing.
Well, that's the good news then.
Well, there's no bad news then because tonight we're gonna have jerk
authentic Caribbean cuisine, including vegetarian entrees with authentic Caribbean flavor. Call 770-892-5049. Located at 6221 Jonesboro Road, Highway 54 in Morrow, Georgia.
Jerk Palace. Don't just sing the song. I'm living my best life. Do it. And we're here to help with Smart Talk. From programs like this, your nation's urban station. Online on ssnatl.com.
Segment, we were talking a little bit about the Varsity Blues scandal. That's right. A bunch of people got busted for paying for their kids to get into Ivy League schools. Oh, such a surprise. Such a surprise. We didn't know that was happening. Hey, get out of here. We all knew. We all work with someone. If you worked in corporate America, you've met a manager, you've met a VP that, you've really had to ask yourself, how in the heck did this person get here? And there are some people that are just dumb as rocks. But unfortunately, some of them are in Washington and some of them are in corporate America. And the beautiful thing about this scandal is that it is going to be like an octopus. It has tentacles that are going to be reaching in so many different directions. So I think what we saw last week with the 50 people who were indicted and charged with, whatever it is they were charged with, conspiracy, fraud, blah, 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 blah. I really feel like it's the tip of the iceberg. The feds went all the way back to 2011 to look at test scores, admission stuff. So what we saw last week is just a small portion of something that's going to be so big. So before the break, we talked a little bit about a company called TPG, a hedge fund company, and how they fired one of their top executives who was caught up in this scandal. And then I mentioned Maury Tobin, who was the person who kicked off this entire scandal. He gave a tip to the federal government. Now, he got busted for something completely different. He was selling bogus investments to the public, and he didn't want to do as much time and decided that he was going to snitch. And I'm talking Kobe Bryant snitching. Remember when Kobe Bryant got caught for cheating? Instead of just going down and, taking the L like, yeah, I messed up, blah, 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 he threw Shaquille O'Neal under the bus. It was like, Shaq cheats all the time. That's Kobe dry snitching, okay? So this Maury guy did the same thing. This Yale graduate with a kid at USC decided to pull the ultimate Kobe Bryant and deflect and super snitch. And he snitched on his kid. Like your kid is now, like he got caught for fraudulent investments. That has nothing to do with his son. That has nothing to do with education. But he decided to tell. He told the federal government about a person that had approached him and offered to help him get his kid into school. So there's a guy by the name of Rudy Meredith, the black dude. He's the head women's coach, soccer women's coach. And Rudy, got to tell you, I'm so disappointed in you for so many reasons, so many reasons. So Rudy asked Maury for $450,000 to get Maury's kid into an Ivy League school. And Rudy, the soccer coach, he messed up. Number one, he didn't do kind of a wire check, when he went to talk with Maury. He just had this conversation with Maury, and, Maury was wearing a wire. And the feds ended up busting Rudy, the soccer coach, and the soccer coach decided that he too wanted leniency from the federal government, and hey, I'll wear a wire too. And, this all leads back to Rick Singer, who was the mastermind behind all of this. And Rick Singer was getting racks on racks on racks. He was making millions of dollars for helping wealthy parents get their underqualified kids into the tippity top of Ivy League schools. So the feds named this thing that they were doing Operation Varsity Blues. And I love a good sense of humor, so thanks to the federal government for giving us a name that we can actually laugh at. But they did a 10-month investigation, and like I said, they went back as far as 2011. And one of the things that I'm feeling right now is that the state attorneys, attorney generals, are really flexing their muscles, something fierce this year. They're really showing us the difference between the balance of power, the separation, like what the state government can do, what the federal government can do. And I just want to let the attorney generals in New York, this great state of New York, Southern District, and then also Massachusetts, that, hey, we see you and we appreciate what it is that you're doing. On the way, we're going to dig more into this Varsity Blues scandal.
Hi, I'm Viola Davis. Did you know that 1 in 5 kids in America struggle with hunger? Growing up, I was one of those kids. But we can solve this. When we make breakfast happen for kids in our neighborhood, we have the power to end childhood hunger, create bigger, brighter school days, and healthier minds and bodies. Go to hungeris.org and lend your time or your voice.
We're hungry for more.
A message from the Albertsons Companies Foundation and the Entertainment Industry Foundation.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Already coaching? Everybody's a coach these days. I get it. Life coach, relationship coach, financial coach. But you want to be a coach with integrity. So get certified and do it the right way. Or add coaching to the work that you already do. Join a cohort or take classes at your own pace. We have knowledgeable instructors. We have a life-changing curriculum. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com to learn more.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on 2 things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Major key alert. Life is like school. You will be tested, so pass it.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchooled.com. Brought to you by Get Schooled and the Ad Council.
Okay, so 5 tacos of cheese and a large soda. That's $10,012. Please drive around.
Wait, 10,000 what?
It's obvious you're buzzed and driving.
I've only had a few. I'm fine.
Yeah, the food's $12, but getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Please drive around. Actually, just park and come in.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
And you're back with Financial Renaissance with the M's, and we are exploring the Varsity Blues scandal. And there's some major players in this scandal. We've got Maury, who decided to snitch to the feds when he got busted for something totally irrelevant, not even connected to the college scandal. But hey, I need leniency. I don't want to go to prison for a long time. Let me show you something that's happening that I think is much bigger than what I was doing, defrauding people in the investment world. So Maury leads the feds to Rudy, who is an African-American college coach at an Ivy League school, and he wears a wire. Rudy gets busted. Rudy decides that he wants leniency, so he wears a wire, and that leads everybody to Rick. And in finding this Rick Springer guy, the feds uncovered so much stuff. And before the break, I was talking a little bit about the attorney generals and them flexing their muscles this year. And I want to tell you a little bit about what the Massachusetts Attorney General said that really, resonated with me, and I'm sure it's going to resonate with you too. What he said was, basically, fraud and all shenanigans aside, on a broader and more basic level, this case also sheds light on deep inequities in our college admissions system. Okay? I'm going to say that again. On a broader and more basic level, this case also sheds light on deep inequities in our college admissions system. So that means that Clarence Thomas's head is smoking somewhere because he's all anti-affirmative action. Well, then the Massachusetts Attorney General went on to say that the scandal isn't just what's illegal, but it's also what's legal too. And so when I tell you that this case is going to have far-reaching effects and impacts, it is. What does this have to do with financial stuff? A lot. If you go to an Ivy League school, you can almost guarantee that you're going to come out. If your kid goes now, they can come out and it's almost guaranteed that they're going to be making at least $75,000, $80,000 a year versus half of that for some of the other schools. So this is an economic thing because if you're able to get into, that's why people clamor to get into these schools. They study their butts off to get into these schools because when they come out, it's life changing. It's family changing. You can change generations of wealth or just where your social status is by getting your kid into one of these schools. And then the beauty of it is a lot of these Ivy League schools try to make sure that the kids don't come out with any student loan debt. So you want your kids to try to get into one of these schools. So Rick Singer, what makes Rick Singer so bad and what he did so wrong is that he also had a charity. This is the mastermind. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there are people who use charities to funnel money. And we're going to have to look at, as this case becomes a lot bigger and there's more things brought to light. Rick Singer was running the Edge College and Career Network of Newport Beach. That's Orange County, people, Orange County, California. And he was funneling money through. So the Maury guy, let's say he wanted to pay that $450,000 to have his son's grades corrected and also to have a portfolio built to show all his athletic abilities and why he's an athletic superstar. That money, those payments were actually going through the nonprofit. And one thing that's happening with this case that, again, I didn't see coming are the lawsuits. The lawsuits are coming. They're being filed by the parents. They're being filed by the kids who are at some of these elite schools. Like I said, this scandal has tentacles that are just going to go in so many different directions. So schools, some of these elite schools are being sued by teenagers. And they're being sued by teenagers because the teenagers, and when I say teenager, I mean like 18, 19-year-olds, people who have applied to schools. They're suing these elite institutions, the 8 that are named as of right now, for wasting their time and money on applications. Okay? We filled out applications thinking in good faith that we had a real shot, and now we know that there weren't as many slots as you said there were, and you were allowing people to buy their way in. We wasted our time filling out these applications, writing essays, and money. And if you have a kid that has either gone to college or is about to go to college, you know that application process. So these kids want their money back. And one of the things that you need to understand about the younger people of today, they're not like we were back. I'm almost 50. They're not like we were. You can't just do something to them and it not make sense and think that you're going to get away with it. So they don't care. They do not allow people, the system, the whoever, to play with their money. These kids understand the value of money. Think about it again. These kids were in a household when their parents got hit by the Great Recession. And so they understand the value of a dollar. So there's kids that had like GPAs 4.2 and they weren't able to get in because a rich kid got in with subpar grades. There's another teenager who had a 4.0 and he couldn't get into UCLA, he didn't get into Stanford, and he didn't get into San Diego. He ended up going to a JC or junior college, or I think on the East Coast you call it community colleges. And he sued them because, again, he didn't get in. He had a 4.0. He did everything that he was told was supposed to happen. And, again, this is no surprise to me or anybody that I know. For a lot of us, we knew that this underbelly practice of getting kids into school for money, donations, like we saw it happening all around us. When I was in high school in New York, kids would get expelled from school for fighting or setting off little M80 bombs in the bathrooms, and the kids would be admitted back into the school because their parents donated, say, a snowplow or a water pump or, some high dollar item, and the kid's record was expunged. It was cleaned up. There was nothing on there that the colleges would be able to see that said that this kid is a problem child or anything like that. And so again, this Varsity Blues scandal is vindication for so many of us. Still to come, we're going to talk more about the lawsuits that are coming as a result of this.
Energizing a nation, one listener at a time. It's SSNATL.com. Radio that's not dumbed down.
Some knowledge belongs to us and us alone. The way our girlfriends walk, talk, touch their hair. Details that only a sister can know about her girls. But what about our other girls? The ones we carry with us every day. Our bond with our sister girls gives life. But knowing your breasts can save it. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Coleman and the Ad Council.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I was sensitive to lights and sounds, so I built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. Sometimes I do the same things over and over, until one day I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Honey, what you cook for dinner tonight?
You want the good news or the bad news first?
The bad news first.
I cooked nothing.
Well, that's the good news then.
Uh-huh. Well, there's no bad news then, because tonight we're gonna have Jerk Palace.
Call Jerk Palace for authentic Caribbean cuisine, including vegetarian entrees with authentic Caribbean flavor. Call 770-892-5049. Located at 6221 Jonesboro Road, Highway 54 in Morrow, Georgia. Jerk Palace.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
I want to be a warm fleece on a
I
cold
want to be
day.
a football
I want to be
stadium.
a bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Major key alert. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchooled.com. Brought to you by Get Schooled and the Ad Council.
Renaissance with the M's. We're going to be finishing up our conversation on the Varsity Blues scandal. And we're also going to get into my top 5 news stories of the week. And before the break, I talked about how when this story of the scandal broke, and it had absolutely no impact, no shocking impact on me whatsoever or anyone that I know. For a lot of us, this underbelly practice was denied by so many. I mean, me myself have voiced this to people, and I've been told that, oh, that possibly can't happen, and that would never happen, and things of that nature. And for us, a lot of us, brown people and people of ethnic colors, ethnic backgrounds, we feel vindicated. We feel vindicated because what we had been saying was true, but then on the other side of that is anger and becoming extremely upset because we know about the economic impact of not being able to get into one of these Ivy League schools. This scandal is going to be collateral damage for the wealthy. So one of the things that we want to look at when it comes to these kids that are suing, again, there are parents that are suing. Some parents are actually suing some of the people who were indicted because they took opportunities away from me as a parent, I would sue, whatever the lady's name is, because her kid got in. She paid a couple million for her kid to get in. My kid couldn't get in, and he belonged there. So now I'm going to sue you for X numbers of hundreds of $1,000s because my kid, when he graduates, he's in school now. He's not going to make as much, et cetera, et cetera. So some of these lawsuits could be frivolous. I don't know. That's for the courts to decide. But like I said, the tentacles and the reach of this scandal are going to be absolutely ridiculous. So now let's jump into my fun stuff. It's going to be my top 5 news stories of the week that I'm watching. The big tech breakup. Elizabeth Warren and Ted Cruz actually agree on something. Hell has frozen over. And Elizabeth Warren is reminding us of monopolies that have been broken up in the past. So the railroads, got broken up in the past. AT&T got broken up into several baby bells. And the last big, antitrust case that happened that we can, probably remember was Microsoft. Microsoft wasn't that different from Facebook from the standpoint that they would buy up smaller companies that they saw as competition. And that's kind of what Facebook has done. Facebook bought Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger. And what Elizabeth Warren is saying is that Facebook and Google and Amazon are platforms, but they're not playing fair. And they are not giving small businesses an opportunity to compete on the same levels. So the federal government sued Microsoft. It was an antitrust case, and it ended up clearing a pathway for other internet companies to be formed. Internet companies like Google and Facebook. If Microsoft was allowed to continue on the path that they were on, we might not have a Facebook. We might not have a company like Google. So Elizabeth Warren's major grievance is that the tech companies have too much power over our economy, over our society, and as we saw during the 2016 election, too much power over our democracy. So I wholeheartedly agree with how she's thinking, and I think there has to be a way for our capitalism to survive, but bulldozing the competition, using private information for your own profit. What we don't want, like most people, we don't want the playing field tilted against us. Give us an opportunity. We're not lazy, blah, blah, blah. We want to make it happen, but don't make things tougher for us. Just get out of the way. The second story that I am interested in is Donald Trump released the 2020 budget, and he's not playing with you people. He wants his money. So what's in the bill is they're looking at gutting $845 billion from Medicare, okay? $845 billion gutted from Medicare. Now, these cuts are really unlikely to become a reality. And I say, why even play like that? Donald Trump, he wasn't supposed to become president, and look what happened. So playing with numbers, playing with Medicare, Mr. President, not such a good idea. But this budget is going to end up causing another, just wait for it, another showdown in Washington. This coming October, they're probably going to have another big fight, and maybe Donald Trump will sprinkle another shutdown on us right before the holidays. So I definitely think people should be watching this story to look at some of the other cuts that are on the chopping block if this budget goes through. One other thing that's on the chopping block that I should mention is SNAP. SNAP is referred to as either food stamps or an EBD card. This is where people who are of low income get a little bit of assistance with food. Some people that I know that are on the SNAP program here in the state, what they get is about $73 a month for one person. That's not a lot of money. You can make it stretch, but that's not a lot of money. Donald Trump is looking at cutting $220 billion from SNAP. The other story I'm looking at this week has to do with the Nike stock price drop because of the shoe blowout. And I heard different takes on whether or not it was the size of this guy. I heard he's massively huge, or whether or not it was faulty footwork. But Nike stock price, I'm not worried about because, hey, Nike knows how to play that supply and demand. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about my other two top stories for the week.
No word in the English language is less convincing than probably.
Are you sure we should get matching tattoos on our first date?
Sure. We'll probably stay together.
Probably? It's been 23 minutes since I ate. I can probably swim.
You should wait 30 minutes.
Okay, now tell me what to do. Cannonball! Cramp! Oh, I have a cramp.
I can probably hit the green from here.
Probably.
Can I get a mulligan?
Ready to go?
Hey, are you sure you're okay to drive?
Yeah, I'm pretty sober. Yeah, I'm probably okay. Probably okay isn't okay, especially when it comes to drinking and driving. If you're drinking, call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
People are always looking to invest in a good opportunity. So what if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change called Better Futures. With your investment, it helps students like me go to college. My name is Charles, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, fish dad!
Oh, come on! This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
If you're looking for that ratchet, you're in the wrong place. It's the nation's urban internet station, Sensation Station Network.
And welcome back to Financial Renaissance with the M's. We are talking about my top 5 news stories of the week. And we talked about Nike before the break and how Nike has actually, their stock price dropped because of the shoe blowout. And as I was saying before the break, I heard that, some people said, man, this guy is built like a tank. And because of his size and the speed that he was going at, he broke out of the shoes. Other people are saying, hey, faulty footwear. Either way, what happened to the shoe on national television was not a good look for Nike. And as a result, their stock price took a hit. But not to worry. Don't ever worry about Nike, because what they did this week was they released these hot pink shoes for women, these Jordans, and those shoes sold out in under 4 minutes. Nike has actually mastered the supply and demand game. And Nike is so big and so gully with what they did with their shoes and how many they release and the tease up to it, that there's actually a stock market to trade shoes. Nikes can be considered an asset. So not concerned about Nike and their stock price, because it is bouncing back. The other news story that I'm going to be taking a look at this week is the Boeing stock price. And the thing about Boeing that really gets to me is they sold refueling tankers to the United States Air Force. And refueling tankers are the planes that will meet up with other planes, and this thing comes out and it connects to the plane, and it's just this very dangerous looking thing that happens in the 30,000 feet or higher up in the sky. And Boeing sold some of these planes to the Air Force, and when the Air Force got these retanker planes, there were tools in them. There were parts kind of around, and the military went ballistic, because if you know anything about the military, everything has to be right. They check, double check, recheck. So if you're selling something, if you are a supplier to the military, you know that what you're doing with them has to be on point. So they were pretty upset with Boeing, and they even thought to the point where, hey, we don't know that we want to fly these planes because there may be some possible parts missing. Sloppy work, we don't have good expectations. So what is really going on at Boeing? I don't understand who at Boeing is cool with their airplanes being below the standards that we're used to. The Ethiopian crash that happened, and then also the U.S. government grounding 737s nosedived their stock price. So I'm watching this story right now to see what happens with Boeing's CEO. He got paid, he's about 55 years old, and he makes about $1.7 million a year. And last year he was bonused $30 million. And I want to see if he has the ability to right this ship. Or will Boeing give him a parachute and push him out of the door? So that's my fourth story that I'm focusing on this week. The fifth story I'm focusing on this week is the new scramble for Africa. So the first surge of foreign interest in Africa was dubbed the scramble, and that was during the 19th century. Like, I used to always worry, well, how come Africans didn't stop the Europeans, after slavery, like in the 19th century, from coming back and just kind of taking over? But it was a very strategically planned assault from the different European nations onto the continent of Africa. And basically Africans weren't able to, they could, try to protect themselves, but they weren't able to help other countries in Africa fight against the Europeans. So in the 19th century, the European colonists, they carved up the continent and they seized the land. And then the second time we had an invasion in Africa was during the Cold War, when the East and West vied for allegiance of these new independent African states. The Soviet Union, they had backed up some Marxist tyrants, and then the Americans, we propped up some of these dictators, and the dictators that claimed to believe in capitalism, we, threw some money behind them, and of course they did exactly what they wanted to do. And so Africa is kind of where it is right now. But right now what's going on is the third surge, and this surge is a little bit more benign. Outsiders are noticing that the continent of Africa is important, and it's becoming more important, not least because of the growing share of their global population. By the year 2025, the UN predicts that there's going to be more Africans in Africa than people in China. Okay, so right now governments, businesses from all over the world are rushing to try to strengthen their diplomatic ties with Africa. They're trying to strengthen their strategic ties with Africa, and they're looking at strengthening their commercial ties with Africa. So this is creating vast opportunities for Africans. And if Africa handles this scramble wisely, this new scramble, the main winners are going to end up becoming the Africans themselves. And, this just has me smiling from ear to ear. It has warmed my heart. Some of the things that we can look at, last year, India announced that it would open 18 military ties with African nations. America and France are also leading some military muscle and also technology to fight against the jihadists that have gone over to certain countries in Africa. Now, one of the biggest players right now over in Africa is China. They are the biggest arms seller to the sub-Saharan Africa, and they have ties right now, defensive and technology ties, with over 45 African countries. And of course, not to be outdone, the Russians are over there. They've signed 19 deals with African states, and then the Arab nations are also looking at having some bases over in Africa as well. So there's has been some stereotypes of foreigners in Africa, and the neo-colonial exploiters interested in only grabbing the continent's resources, and that has happened. But it looks like finally the tables will be able to turn, and Africans have enough power, they have enough education, they have enough people, and they have enough support to really take charge of what's happening on the continent for the first time in like our modern history. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens with that story. So again, just to recap, my top 5 stories, looking at the budget that Trump dropped, looking at the stock price of Nike, looking at the stock price of Boeing, and then also looking at what's happening in Africa. And then the biggest story, the one that really has my attention and should have all of our attentions, is going to be the big tech breakup. And for me, that's a happy sign for me because I am so over Facebook. Facebook really upset me with what happened with the 2016 election, knowing that they knew what happened in our election on Facebook wasn't the first time. It happened over in the Ukraine. It happened in Spain with the Catalonian people wanting to declare independence, and it also happened in England with Brexit. So there were certain things that happened in throughout the world that Facebook should have known about. And to me, greed cannot supersede your allegiance to your country. That is where, you have to draw the line. You cannot sell your country out for coin. And as we can see, there are a couple of people in the current administration that have sold their country out, and, they're going to have to pay for it. I found out this week that Paul Manafort was given another 3 years or so he has a total of 7.5 years. But one of the cool things is that he has to pay back $25 million in restitution. Now, that's a lot of money. And it's a lot of money, especially considering that the Mueller investigation has cost the American public $0. The money that they've been using has come from Paul Manafort and the properties that they've seized from him. From an economic standpoint, when we look at what happens with a lot of the elite people and them not paying their taxes, when they don't pay taxes on the monies that they have, the government starts to look at the middle class, starts to look at people that look like me and you, and that's where some of our tax rates end up going up. So looking at the big tech breakup, Google, Elizabeth Warren feels that Google is putting themselves and companies affiliated with them higher on the search, and that the algorithm that they say they have isn't working as well as they have. A lot of small business owners are ending up on other pages as opposed to coming up on the first page when you Google something. And then looking at Amazon, according to Elizabeth Warren, what Amazon is doing is stealing information from a lot of these smaller retailers and looking at who their customers are, who they're selling to, what they're doing, and then creating the same type of product and then selling it, putting them at the top of the list. So if you went on Amazon and you wanted to find, say, a hat to sleep in, so there's companies that sell hats with the satin inside so you can sleep in it and your hair looks all cool, the next day. And so what Amazon is doing is Amazon figured out a cheaper way to create the same hat and sell it for like half the price. So Elizabeth Warren feels that Amazon is encroaching on a small business owner's ability to make money and remain competitive. So she feels that Amazon should be split up, that there should be the platform where we're able to buy stuff, and that should be separate from Amazon, who's able to make stuff and sell stuff. So it's going to be really interesting just watching how a lot of these stories play out. Of course, looking at the Nike story the most, like I said, I'm so not worried about Nike. To me, the biggest story is going to be the tech breakup and then the scramble for Africa, because I would really like to see these African nations be held in the same esteem or looked at like a lot of the other countries in the world. I think it's definitely time that is overdue. Looking at the Trump budget, a couple of things that I think we should be paying attention to, besides the Medicare, besides the SNAP, he's also looking at reducing housing and urban development, which is HUD. He's also looking at there being a reduction in health and human services. And then he's also looking at reducing education spending, energy spending, and agriculture. And the agriculture spending we're going to end up having to talk a little bit about, because there are a lot of farmers in the Midwest who are being subsidized by some of the government money. But next up, we're going to have M&O's money, and we're going to talk about the top 10 things that you as a caregiver should do for yourself.
1 in 7 Americans will struggle with addiction during their lifetime. Want to know how you can help? Go to heretolisten.com for tips and tools to help turn addiction around. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council.
You use Tearless Baby Shampoo because it's gentle on your baby's eyes. You make sure his toys don't have any sharp edges. You always test the bathwater to make sure it's not too hot. You taught her what to do when the smoke alarm goes off. You make sure she wears a helmet when she rides her bicycle. You put on his sunscreen, even when he's embarrassed his friends will see. You do so much to keep your child safe. But are you using the right car seat for your child? Is your child facing the right way in the car seat? Is the seat too big or too small? How do you know when it's time to move your child into the next type of seat? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Protect your child's future at every stage of life. For information on the right seat for your child, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. That's safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Having trouble finding Connor's middle school? Would you like directions?
No, why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with him over homework.
Home, walk, restaurant. Need a review?
No, I need help. He's very smart, but his mind wanders. He's disorganized.
I think I understand.
Oh, good.
Finding best potatoes for French fries.
No!
Russet, fingerling, Yukon Gold.
Why don't you understand me?
Sorry, I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Brought to you by understood.org and the Ad Council.
My savings are gone.
Okay, where were they last?
Here, right before I spent them on that vacation to Aruba.
Weird. Not weird. Not saving now means no money later. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Honey, what you cook for dinner tonight?
Do you want the good news or the bad news first?
The bad news first.
I cooked nothing.
Well, that's the good news then.
Uh-huh. Well, there's no bad news then because tonight we're going to have Jerk Palace.
Call Jerk Palace for authentic Caribbean cuisine, including vegetarian entrees with authentic Caribbean flavor. Call 770-892-5049. Located at 6221 Jonesboro Road, Highway 54 in Morrow, Georgia. Jerk Palace.
We're more connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, Beyond Differences and I Keep Safe are looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.com.
Don't just sing the song. Do it. And we're here to help with Smart Talk. From programs like this, your nation's urban station, online, on SSNATL.com.
And so a new American industry has been born. Sensation Station Network.
This segment of Emma Knows Money is brought to you by Clean Bottoms. The warm waters of South Florida may feel great to you, but for your boat, it causes an overgrowth of algae and barnacles. Call the diving specialist at Clean Bottoms at 954-278-4514 to handle all of your underwater boat and yacht needs. So again, 954-278-4514, or check them out online at cleanbottoms.net. So for Emma Knows Money segment today, since we talked a little bit about healthcare and we also talked about caregiving, the other thing that should come into play is as a caregiver, when we're giving care to other people, we tend to forget about ourselves. So I want to talk about getting physical activity. Make sure that you're getting out for a walk. Make sure that you are keeping your pressure in check. You're also checking your cholesterol levels. And just getting out and walking, and even if you're able to take the person that you're with out for a walk, that would be great. And then you want to maintain a heart-healthy diet. You know, Jay-Z and Beyonce are trying to encourage people to do this whole plant-based diet. Do whatever you need to do, but cut down on, you know, a lot of the fried foods and a lot of the fatty and salty foods. And then one of the most important things, and I do this, I incorporate this into every day, is you have to take time for yourself. Take time where nobody else can reach you. Take time to do things that make you feel good, whether it's reading, doing arts and crafts, if it's cooking, if it's listening to music, whatever it is that makes you happy, and if it relaxes you, it's going to be considered therapeutic. And I tell people this all the time, and everybody always, you know, gets mad at me because they think I always want to laugh and play and have fun. But you have to keep humor in your life. Laughter is truly the best medicine. So find time to watch either a TV program that makes you laugh, listen to a comedian while you're driving, look at something funny on Netflix, but do something that's going to make you laugh. And the person that you're caring for, make sure they're laughing too. Also, you want to make sure that you get out and about. At least once a week, you're going to have to break out of your routine, and you need to do something enjoyable. So, you know, go to Starbucks or whatever your local coffee shop is. Go to church. Do things that are going to keep you interactive with other people. And then the sixth thing is you need to watch out for depression. A lot of the demands that are placed on you, and I mentioned that the emotional toll that it takes when you have to provide care for a lot of people, you know, be vigilant of the signs of depression. And that's where, you know, making sure that you are staying connected with your friends, with other family members, they're going to be your first line of defense to let you know what's going on. Make sure you're taking care of your business, you're balancing your checkbook, make sure that your credit cards, you're looking at your credit card statement to make sure nothing frivolous is going on or nefarious is going on. And then make sure you're keeping all of your medical and dental appointments. We tend not to take care of ourselves when we're caring for other people, but we have to do that. And then the ninth thing is to think positive. Every day, make sure that you see the glass as being half full and not half empty. And also acknowledge your limitations. If you can't do something, don't have it in you, find somebody to help. And then the last thing, and one of the most important, is to stay connected to the outside world. Just don't, you know, become isolated. Stay connected with your friends, with your coworkers, even if it's just by phone or online, you know, even texting, talking to your friends, somebody other than just yourself. You are bigger than just being a caregiver. And one thing I want everyone to know, if you are in a situation where you have been, you know, thrust into caregiving and you weren't prepared for it, if you just Google caregiving resources, there are groups that you can join, people that you can talk to that are going through the same thing as you, to just help you out a little bit. And this was my 10 tips for caregivers on Emma Knows Money.
Coming to Tampa Bay, I said we want to win the Super Bowl, and I believe we will.
From IamSecond.com.
We came close, but never really did win that championship.
Former NFL head coach Tony Dungy.
At the end of my 6th year, I was fired, and it was one of the biggest disappointments of my life. Next year, I'm in Indianapolis, get to the playoffs, but get knocked out again. And for the next couple of years, it's the same thing. Everyone is saying Colts are never going to win one. And I did wonder, why didn't it pan out the way I thought it would? But I determined that I had to have Christ first, and that everything else came below that, including my own desires. The next year, that ended up being our year to go to the Super Bowl and win it, and it was a wonderful feeling. Every decision I make, I'm going to make it through the lens of Jesus Christ, and He guides us to that ultimate victory. I'm Tony Dungy, and I am second.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything.
I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor.
If making my detox public is going to help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth. Spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I was sensitive to lights and sounds, so I built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. Sometimes I do the same things over and over, until one day I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
It is Sean Prime from Inside the Loop with myself and Brenna B, and I've been talking about Gene's Body Tech for a minute simply because it's a premier gym in a pristine spot without a premium price. All the weight you need, all the machines you want, free parking, all in Buckhead. Come on, it's crazy. 700 Miami Circle is where you want to work out today. And for those who are feeling a little bit down because you may not have followed through on the Healthy New Year resolution thing, hey, it's still the new year. You can start today. Look at yourself a year from now and hello, is that you? Because you're looking good, like snack-like. Yes, you are. 700 Miami Circle, or go to facebook.com/Gene's Body Tech, also known as JBT Fitness. Either way, $49 is nothing to pay to feel your best every day.
Some knowledge belongs to us and us alone. The way our girlfriends walk, talk, touch their hair. Details that only a sister can know about her girls. But what about our other girls? The ones we carry with us every day. Our bond with our sister girls gives life. But knowing your breasts can save it. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Coleman and the Ad Council.
And we're back with Financial Renaissance with the M's, and man, what a show we had today. I mean, it was so hot. The fire marshals came in here and told us we had to calm it down a little bit. But I want to give a special shout out. I had an intern from Albany State working with us at the office this week. Her name is Kayla Henry. And I don't know what the people are underneath the millennials, whatever that group is underneath the millennials, I have to tell you, young lady, I was very impressed with your professionalism. She was at work every day on time. She knew my schedule. I mean, she was just like a little sponge. And, you know, if you have the opportunity to show a young person what it is that you do on a day-to-day basis so that they get introduced to different career paths, please do so. You can reach out to the universities or the colleges in your area, call their career placement center and let them know that you're looking for an intern. You know, you can give them the specifics, or you write up a little a job placement request and put all that stuff in there, and you never know what you'll get. And again, you know, really thanks to Kayla Henry. I also want to give a shout out to my brother Jay. Very proud of him and all that he's doing, and our newfound sister down in Miami, and my nieces. Can't wait to see you guys. So this week's show, we had some conversations about healthcare. We talked about, you know, hospital bills. We talked about hospital bills that may occur because you don't get your children vaccinated. We talked about looking at your bill, and if you see something on your bill that makes absolutely no sense to you, to go ahead and investigate what the true cost of the medicine is that the hospital is giving you. In the case that of the woman who got bitten by the kitty, she the cost of her care shouldn't have been more than about $5,000, and she got a bill for close to $50,000. Looking at the Trump administration's affordable health plans or association health plans, if you are a small business owner, a solo practitioner, a sole proprietor, and you don't have good health care, you want to look at joining up with other people in your industry to form an association that you can tailor to you, to your needs, your family's needs, and those people in the plan. You can tailor everything, and most importantly, this is opened up all over the country, so it doesn't have to be state specific. So whichever of you, if you're in different states, whichever state has the best health care or the best plans, that's the one that you go with. We touched on caregiving. And caregiving is a very, very big deal because it's something that we are not prepared for in this country. There'll be a physical toll, an emotional toll, and a financial toll that could possibly be taken on us. We also looked at what's going on in Japan, and we hope that it doesn't happen here. people over 65 are going to prison at alarming rates. And then we jumped into the Varsity Blues scandal and how a Yale father who was under investigation and had been indicted for financial crimes decided to snitch on the college admission scandal, and now all types of things are happening as a result. Kids are suing the schools. Parents are suing the parents that provided money. One thing that I will say about this scandal that has me in an absolute bewilderment, if you will, is if you can afford $1 million to get your kid into a school, you couldn't pay that $1 million to get them tutoring. Just my thought. But coming up on Smooth, we have Smooth Sensational Sundays, and then we have Connecting the Dots with Lee Watts at 4 p.m. Thank you for joining us today on Financial Renaissance with the M's.